there is a quiet kind of power that most people never discover. Not because it is hidden, not because it is rare, but because it asks something of you that feels completely backwards. It asks you to stop, to breathe, to release the grip. And in that releasing, in that soft and deliberate surrender of struggle, everything you have ever wanted begins to move toward you. This is not wishful thinking. This is not magic. This is one of the oldest, most battle-tested truths in the entire history of human philosophy. The Stoics knew it. Marcus Aurelius lived it. Epictetus taught it from chains. Seneca wrote about it in his final hours. And today, we are going to go deep into this truth together. So, settle in, get comfortable, because what you are about to hear might completely change the way you approach your goals, your ambitions, your relationships, and your entire life. Welcome back to Stoic Zeno, the place where ancient wisdom meets the challenges of modern living. If this is your first time here, I want you to know that you have arrived at exactly the right moment. Every video on this channel is built to give you something real, something you can carry with you, something that actually works. If that sounds like what you have been looking for, please take a moment right now to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. We put out content that can genuinely shift your perspective, and you do not want to miss a single piece of it. And if this video moves you, if something here resonates deep in your chest, please like this video, share it with someone you love, and leave a comment below. Tell me what you are currently trying to manifest in your life. I read every single comment. This channel grows because of people like you, and I am grateful for every one of you who chooses to spend their time here. Now, let us talk about relaxation, and let us talk about why the Stoics believed it was not a sign of weakness, but the highest form of disciplined strength. We live in a culture that worships effort. From the time we are children, we are told that the harder you work, the more you deserve. Hustle, grind, sacrifice, push. And while discipline and effort are absolutely essential, the Stoics were among the greatest advocates for hard work in all of history. There is a dimension of achievement that our hustle-obsessed culture has completely forgotten. There is a phase of creation, of manifestation, of becoming that requires you to let go, to trust, to be still. And this phase is not optional. It is not a luxury. It is not laziness dressed up in spiritual language. It is a biological, psychological, and philosophical necessity. Without it, all the effort in the world will carry you in circles. Think about the last time you were desperately trying to remember something. A name, a word, a fact. You pushed and pushed, straining at the edges of your memory. And the harder you tried, the more it slipped away. But the moment you relaxed, the moment you turned your attention to something else and let your mind breathe, the answer floated up from the depths of your consciousness, as if it had been waiting patiently for you to stop blocking it. That is the principle we are talking about today, scaled up to encompass your entire life. The Stoics called this understanding the difference between what is up to us and what is not. Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of the most influential philosophers in the ancient world, built his entire system of thought around this single division. He called it the dichotomy of control. And while most people today have heard of this concept in its basic form, very few have understood what it actually means when applied to the art of manifestation. Because here is what Epictetus was really saying. He was saying that your effort, your preparation, your choices, your character, these are yours. These are in your hands. But the outcome, the result, the universe's response to your actions that is not yours to control, and the moment you try to control it, the moment you white-knuckle your grip around the outcome, you cut off the very channel through which your desires can arrive. Let us go deeper. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the known world. He commanded armies. He governed an empire that stretched from Scotland to Syria. He had more practical authority over the physical world than almost any human being who has ever lived. And yet, his private journal, the collection of writings we now call meditations, is a document of radical surrender. Over and over again, Marcus returns to the same theme. Do what you must. Do it with excellence. Do it with virtue. And then release. Let the universe respond as it will. Do not be attached to the result. This is not the philosophy of a passive man. This is the philosophy of the most active, most engaged, most disciplined ruler in Roman history. Marcus Aurelius was not telling himself to stop trying. He was telling himself to stop strangling his own efforts with the anxiety of attachment. He was reminding himself, daily, sometimes several times a day, that the work was his responsibility and the outcome was the universe's business. And here is the profound irony, the beautiful paradox at the heart of Stoic manifestation. When you truly release your grip on the outcome, when you genuinely stop being so terrified of failure that you are unconsciously sabotaging your own actions with desperation, you become more effective, not less. Your decisions get cleaner. Your instincts sharpen. Your creativity expands. Your energy, instead of being tied up in worry and anxiety, becomes available for actual action. You become, in the truest sense of the word, a more powerful force in the world. Seneca, the great Roman philosopher and playwright, wrote extensively about what he called the problem of the future. He observed that most human suffering does not come from what is actually happening to us. It comes from what we imagine might happen. We borrow trouble from tomorrow and bring it into today. We live in a constant state of anticipatory dread, projecting ourselves into futures that may never arrive. And in doing so, we ruin the present moment, which is the only moment where anything can actually be created or achieved. In his letters to Lucilius, Seneca writes about a man who has learned to be at home with himself. A man who does not need the approval of the crowd, who does not need the future to be a certain way in order to feel safe right now. And he says something extraordinary. He says that this man, this person who has made peace with uncertainty, this person who has learned to be genuinely present in the here and now, this person achieves more, with less effort, than all the anxious, grasping, striving people around him combined. Why? Because presence is efficiency. When your mind is not divided between the present action and the imagined future outcome, your full cognitive and creative power is available to what is in front of you. You are not half working and half worrying. You are fully working, fully present, fully alive to the task at hand. And that kind of presence has a quality that the universe and the people around you can feel. Have you ever met someone who has this quality? Someone who seems utterly unworried about whether things will work out, not because they are careless, but because they have a deep, quiet certainty in themselves. Someone who does the work with a kind of joyful ease, without the frantic energy of desperation. Those people tend to be extraordinarily magnetic. Opportunities find them. Relationships deepen around them. Things seem to fall into place in their lives in ways that look almost supernatural from the outside. But from the inside, they will tell you it is simply what happens when you stop fighting reality and start working with it. Now, I want to address something directly, because I know many of you watching this are ambitious people. You have big dreams. You have goals that matter to you. And when someone says, relax, you might feel a flash of resistance. You might think, I cannot afford to relax. I have too much to do, too much to achieve, too far to go. And I want you to sit with that resistance for a moment, because it is carrying information. The Stoics would say that your resistance to relaxation is itself a signal. It is telling you that somewhere, deep down, you do not trust yourself. You believe that the only thing standing between you and failure is constant vigilance, constant effort, constant anxiety. You believe that if you relax, even for a moment, everything will fall apart. And that belief, that deep conviction that you must always be at maximum tension to keep the whole structure from collapsing, is exhausting you. It is burning through your energy. It is narrowing your vision. And paradoxically, it is making you less capable of achieving what you want. The Stoic practice of relaxation is not about doing less. It is about doing what you do from a place of ease rather than anxiety. It is about taking the same actions you would take, making the same preparations you would make, but releasing the death grip on the outcome. It is about trusting that your best effort, offered freely and without desperation, is enough. That the universe can work with that. That you do not need to force and manipulate every variable in order to arrive at your destination. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this in Meditations, when he talked about the actor who plays their role well without concern for whether the audience appreciates it. You play your role, You play it with everything you have. You play it with craft and care and full commitment. But the audience's response, the world's response, is not part of your performance. It is not something you can control by trying harder. You offer what you have, and you trust. Let us talk about the nervous system, because this is where ancient wisdom and modern science meet in a way that I find deeply compelling. When you are in a state of anxiety, of desperate striving, of clinging to outcomes, your body is in a state of stress. Your nervous system is operating in what scientists call the sympathetic mode, the fight, flight, or freeze response. In this state, blood is directed away from your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for creativity, problem-solving, long-term planning, and nuanced decision-making. Your body is preparing to run from a lion. It does not understand that there is no lion. It only knows that you are terrified of something, and it responds accordingly. In this state, you are literally less intelligent, less creative, less capable of making the complex, subtle connections that lead to breakthrough ideas and inspired action. Your vision narrows. Your options seem fewer than they actually are. You make decisions from fear rather than from wisdom. And then you wonder why, despite all your effort, things are not working out. Now contrast that with the parasympathetic state, what scientists call rest and digest. This is the state your body enters when you feel genuinely safe, calm, and at ease. In this state, your prefrontal cortex is fully online. Your creativity is accessible. Your intuition is sharp. You can see the longer view. You can make connections that are invisible to the anxious mind. You can perceive opportunities that the stressed mind would walk right past. This is the state in which your best ideas arrive. This is the state in which you make your wisest choices. This is the state in which you are most fully yourself. The Stoics, 2,000 years before neuroscience existed, were essentially describing this same principle. They knew, from careful observation of human experience, that the person who had achieved internal tranquility, what they called ataraxia, a kind of unshakable inner peace, was the person who was most capable of effective action in the world. Not because they cared less, but because their caring was clean, uncontaminated by anxiety, undistorted by attachment. There is a concept in Stoic philosophy called Amor Fati, which translates to love of fate. It was not original to the Stoics. It was later articulated beautifully by Friedrich Nietzsche, but the spirit of it runs through every page of Marcus Aurelius, every letter of Seneca, every discourse of Epictetus. It is the practice of not merely accepting what comes, but genuinely embracing it, welcoming it, treating every event, every outcome, every turn of circumstances as exactly what needed to happen. Now, I know that sounds difficult, maybe even impossible when things go wrong, when the business fails, when the relationship ends, when the plan collapses. In those moments, Amor Fati is not a platitude you can simply decide to feel. It is a practice. It is something you return to, again and again, in the same way you return to your breath in meditation. It is a direction you orient yourself, even when you cannot reach it completely. But here is why this practice matters for manifestation. When you are not at war with what is, when you are not spending enormous amounts of energy resisting and resenting current reality, all of that energy becomes available to create the next reality. The person who has accepted where they are, truly accepted it, without bitterness or denial, is the person who has the most energy available for moving forward. They are not dragging the weight of their resistance behind them. They are free, and that freedom, that lightness, is enormously attractive to the circumstances and opportunities and people that you want to draw into your life. The universe, if we can use that word without being precious about it, responds to the quality of your inner state. Not because of some mystical law, but because your inner state directly shapes your perception, your behavior, your communication, your choices, and your receptivity to what is available to you. When you are in a state of relaxed, grounded confidence, you see differently, you speak differently, you act differently, you attract differently. Let us bring this into the practical realm, because Stoicism was never meant to be merely theoretical. The Stoics were obsessed with practice, with daily habits of mind, with exercises and rituals that would train the inner life in the same way an athlete trains the body. So, what does it actually look like to practice relaxed manifestation in the Stoic style? The first practice is what the Stoics called the morning meditation. Marcus Aurelius began each day by reminding himself of the nature of reality. He would review the principles he wanted to live by. He would rehearse, in his mind, the kinds of challenges the day might bring, and he would practice responding to them with virtue and equanimity rather than anxiety. But crucially, he also released the outcomes. He set his intention for the kind of person he wanted to be that day, not for the specific results he wanted to see. He focused on character, not achievement, and paradoxically, his achievement was extraordinary. Try this yourself. Each morning, before the noise of the day begins, before you reach for your phone, before the obligations come rushing in, take 5 minutes to sit in silence. Ask yourself, who do I want to be today? What qualities do I want to embody? What kind of effort do I want to offer? Set your intention not around what you want to get, but around what you want to give and who you want to be. And then breathe. Exhale the anxiety. Release the outcome. Go into the day as an offering rather than a demand. The second practice is what we might call conscious release. Throughout the day, you will feel moments of grasping, moments when your mind starts calculating and worrying and strategizing around outcomes. When you catch yourself in one of these moments, and the Stoics considered the ability to catch yourself one of the highest philosophical skills, simply pause, take a breath, and remind yourself of Epictetus's dichotomy. This outcome is not up to me. My effort is up to me. My character is up to me. The result belongs to something larger, and then return to the action in front of you with clean hands and a clear mind. The third practice is evening reflection, which Seneca wrote about extensively. Before you sleep, review the day. Not with judgment or self-criticism, but with honest curiosity. Ask yourself, where did I grip too tightly today? Where did I act from anxiety rather than wisdom? Where did I trust, and what happened when I did? This kind of honest, compassionate review trains your mind over time to recognize the difference between anxious striving and grounded effort. And as you develop that recognition, you become more and more able to operate from the better place. There is something I want to tell you about desire, because the Stoics had a sophisticated and often misunderstood relationship with wanting things. The popular version of Stoicism sometimes suggests that the Stoic ideal is to want nothing, to be completely indifferent to outcomes, to become a kind of philosophical robot, unmoved by success or failure. This is a caricature. It is not what Stoicism actually teaches. The Stoics did not say, stop wanting things. They said, want things with wisdom. Epictetus made a distinction between strong desires, which he called lusts and cravings, and what he called preferred indifference. A preferred indifferent is something you would like to have, that you will work toward intelligently and diligently, but that you hold lightly enough that its absence does not destroy your peace of mind. Health, for example, is a preferred indifferent. You take care of your body. You pursue good health with sensible habits. But you are not so attached to perfect health that a single illness shatters your entire sense of well-being. Wealth is a preferred indifferent. You work with intelligence and virtue to build financial security, but you hold that wealth lightly enough that if it were lost, you would not lose yourself. This is actually a profoundly radical approach to desire, because most of us do the opposite. We hold our desires so tightly that they become anxiety rather than aspiration. They become desperate needs rather than joyful pursuits. And that desperation is felt by others, by us, and in some sense that I believe is real, even if it is difficult to articulate, by the universe itself. When you hold a desire lightly, when you want something genuinely and fully, but without that white-knuckled desperation, something interesting happens to your relationship with that desire. It begins to feel achievable. It begins to feel joyful to pursue. The action you take toward it comes from a place of abundance rather than lack. And that quality of action, that sense of joyful, unattached engagement, is extraordinarily effective. It is the quality of action that great athletes describe when they talk about being in the zone. It is what musicians describe when they talk about a perfect performance. It is what writers describe when they talk about a day when the words seem to flow through them rather than from them. You have felt this at least once in your life. A moment when you were so absorbed in what you were doing, so fully present, so entirely in the flow, that self-consciousness fell away entirely, and whatever you were doing seemed to do itself. That state is available to you more often than you think. The Stoic practice of relaxed, unattached engagement is essentially a method for returning to that state as a baseline, rather than experiencing it as a rare accident. Now I want to talk about something that the Stoics understood with extraordinary clarity, and that modern psychology has only recently caught up to: the relationship between identity and manifestation, between who you believe you are and what shows up in your life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, repeatedly and with great emphasis, about the importance of governing your own mind, of being the author of your inner narrative rather than its victim. He understood that the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what we deserve, what is possible for us, are not merely descriptions of reality. They are instructions to reality. They are the templates around which our experience organizes itself. If you believe, deep down, that you are the kind of person who struggles, if your inner narrative is built around lack and difficulty and the impossibility of your dreams, then no amount of external effort will deliver what you want, because you will unconsciously arrange your behavior, your perception, and your choices to confirm that story. You will miss opportunities because your mind is not calibrated to see them. You will self-sabotage when success gets close because success does not fit the story you are carrying. You will interpret every setback as confirmation of the lie you have been living by. The Stoic solution to this is not positive thinking in the shallow, affirmation poster sense. It is something much more rigorous. It is a practice of ruthlessly examining your inner narrative and questioning every assumption that does not serve your highest self. It is asking, is this belief actually true? Is it useful? Is it the kind of belief that a wise, courageous, virtuous person would hold? And if it is not, choosing deliberately to construct a new belief, not by pretending, not by denial, but by acting, again and again, in alignment with the new story, until the new story becomes the natural one. This is what Epictetus meant when he said, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." You are in charge of your inner life, your perceptions, your interpretations, your beliefs, your character, everything else, the outcome, the response of the world, the behavior of other people, that is not in your control. But the inner life is yours completely, and it is the most powerful creative force available to you. Let us talk about patience, because one of the most important aspects of relaxed manifestation is the willingness to work without a deadline, to plant seeds and trust the season without digging them up every week to check whether they are growing. Seneca had a lot to say about time. He was obsessed with it, actually, in the most productive possible way. He wrote about how most people waste the majority of their lives, not in grand failures, but in a kind of distracted, anxious busyness that looks like activity but is really just noise. He wrote about the difference between a long life and a full life. You can live for 100 years and use very little of it. Or you can live with such depth and presence and intentionality that a single hour contains more genuine living than most people manage in a decade. What Seneca was pointing to is the idea that impatience is a form of ingratitude for the present moment. When you are impatient for results, you are essentially rejecting the present moment. You are saying, "I refuse to be here, where I am. I need to be there, where I want to be." And that rejection of the present is not only philosophically costly, it is practically self-defeating. Because all the action that will eventually deliver your desired future must happen in the present. And if you are not truly in the present, if you are mentally living in a future that does not yet exist, your present moment action is weakened, distracted, half-hearted. The person who can work patiently, who can build consistently without urgent desperation for the result to arrive on a particular timeline, is the person who tends to build things that last. Because they are building from a place of genuine engagement with each step, rather than a frantic rush toward the finish line. There is a beautiful metaphor in Stoic philosophy about the archer. The archer prepares carefully. They choose their equipment well. They train their body. They study their target. They account for the wind and the distance. They do everything within their power to send that arrow true. And then they release. They do not chase the arrow down the range with their arms outstretched, trying to guide it to the target by will alone. They release, and they trust. The Stoics said that this is exactly how we should pursue our goals. Everything up to the release that is ours. The trajectory of the arrow after it leaves your hand that belongs to the world. I want to spend some time talking about the relationship between inner peace and outer achievement, because this is perhaps the most counterintuitive and most important part of what we are discussing today. We live in a culture that treats peace as a reward. You work hard, you achieve your goals, and then you get to relax. Peace is something you earn after the struggle is over. But the Stoics had a completely different relationship with this. For them, peace was not the reward at the end of the journey. Peace was the vehicle for the journey. It was the state from which effective action was taken. It was the ground from which genuine achievement grew. Think about the implications of this. If peace is a reward, you are always deferred. You are always in the struggle, waiting for the moment when you have done enough, achieved enough, accumulated enough, to finally deserve to feel at ease. And that moment never comes, because the mind that has been trained in struggle will find new things to struggle with no matter what external circumstances you achieve. This is why so many highly successful people who have accomplished everything they set out to accomplish, still feel a gnawing emptiness, because they chased the achievement, not the peace. And the achievement, once reached, does not deliver the peace they imagined it would. But if peace is the vehicle, if you cultivate inner tranquility as a daily practice independent of external circumstances, then something profound shifts. You bring that peace to everything you do. Your work becomes an expression of wholeness rather than a search for it. Your relationships deepen because you are not using other people to fill an internal void. Your creative work expands because you are not strangled by the fear of failure. Your decisions improve because they are made from clarity rather than anxiety. And here is the beautiful thing. From that state of genuine inner peace, you often achieve more, not less, because you are working with your full self rather than with a fraction of yourself that is not being consumed by worry, because your perception is wider and your intuition is sharper and your presence is more complete, because, as the Stoics observed and as modern psychology confirms, the person who is at peace with themselves is the person who has access to their deepest capacities. Marcus Aurelius wrote something in Meditations that I return to again and again. He said, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look there." That source of strength is not effort. It is not willpower. It is not discipline in the narrow sense of forcing yourself to do what you do not want to do. It is something deeper. It is the fundamental aliveness that is always already present beneath the noise and the anxiety and the striving. It is the quiet center that the storms of circumstance can never reach. The practice of relaxation, in the Stoic sense, is essentially the practice of returning to that center, not escaping from your life, but finding the still point within your life from which all authentic action arises. This is what the great contemplative traditions across all cultures have pointed to. The Stoics called it the ruling faculty. The Taoists called it Wu Wei. The Buddhists called it no self. The mystics called it the ground of being. The language is different, but the pointer is the same. There is a place within you, always accessible, always available, from which you can act with complete efficiency and zero waste. Where effort is clean, intention is clear, and the result of your action falls as naturally as rain falls from clouds. You have touched this place. I know you have, because every human being has. In moments of deep absorption, in moments of genuine prayer or meditation, in moments of creative flow, in moments when you looked up and realized that hours had passed and you had lost yourself completely in what you were doing and everything had been exactly right. That is the place we are talking about. And the Stoics were offering a systematic method for making that place your home rather than a rare vacation. Let us talk about manifestation directly, because I know that word means different things to different people, and I want to be precise about what I mean in the context of Stoic philosophy. Manifestation, as it is often taught today, can slide into magical thinking, The idea that if you simply visualize what you want hard enough and often enough, the universe will deliver it to you without requiring any action or change on your part. This is not what we are talking about. The Stoics would have no patience for passive, wishful thinking. They were among the greatest advocates for personal responsibility and rigorous, disciplined effort in all of philosophy. What Stoic manifestation means is something more sophisticated and more powerful than passive visualization. It means aligning your character, your actions, your beliefs, and your inner state with the reality you want to create. It means becoming, truly and deeply, the kind of person for whom the thing you want is a natural expression, not someone who occasionally strives toward a goal, but someone whose goals are the inevitable outgrowth of who they fundamentally are. When a person has done this kind of inner work, when they have truly aligned their inner and outer life, something that looks like magic happens. Opportunities appear as if from nowhere. The right people show up at the right time. Doors open. Resources arrive. Circumstances rearrange themselves in ways that seem almost too fortunate to be coincidence. And from the outside, people say, that person is lucky. But from the inside, that person knows it is not luck. It is alignment. It is what happens when who you are and what you do and how you think and what you believe are all pointing in the same direction. The relaxation we have been talking about throughout this video is the key that unlocks this alignment. Because as long as you are anxious, as long as you are desperate, as long as you are straining against reality and white-knuckling your grip on outcomes, there is a friction, a misalignment, a static in the signal. And that static prevents the clear, coherent signal of your authentic desire from reaching the universe in its full strength. But when you relax, when you breathe, when you do your work with care and then release the result, when you cultivate inner peace as a daily practice rather than a distant reward, when you become genuinely okay with what is while still clearly envisioning what you want, the static clears, the signal becomes pure, and the universe, which includes all the people and circumstances and opportunities that are always already around you, begins to respond. I want to close with something that I think is the heart of everything we have discussed today. Something that the Stoics return to again and again with a kind of reverent insistence. You are not defined by what you achieve. You are not defined by what you accumulate. You are not defined by the verdict of the external world on your efforts. You are defined by the quality of your inner life, by the depth of your character, by the way you treat the moments that no one is watching, by the integrity between what you value and how you live. And here is the extraordinary thing about this foundation. When you truly internalize it, when you truly make peace with the fact that your worth is not dependent on your results, something paradoxical happens. You become more capable of achieving results. Because you are no longer working from a place of lack. You are no longer trying to prove yourself to a world that you secretly fear is judging you. You are no longer running from the fear of failure. You are running toward the expression of your genuine best self. And that kind of running is not exhausting. It is energizing. It is not anxious. It is joyful. It is not desperate. It is free. That freedom is the most powerful creative force available to a human being. It is what the great artists, athletes, leaders, and philosophers throughout history have tapped into when they produced their most extraordinary work. Not the forced, strained, grinding output of someone who has to succeed in order to feel okay about themselves. The effortless, flowing, luminous output of someone who is already okay, who is already whole, who is creating from overflow rather than from lack. You can be that person. You already are that person, underneath everything. The Stoic practices we have discussed today, the morning meditation, the conscious release throughout the day, the evening reflection, the cultivation of Amor Fati, the practice of holding desires lightly, the daily return to inner peace. These are not things that will make you that person. They are things that will help you remember that you already are. Relax. Not because nothing matters, but because everything matters enough to deserve your fullest, clearest, most grounded self. Do the work. Do it with everything you have. Do it with love and care and full commitment. And then open your hands. Release the result. Trust the process. Trust yourself. Trust that the universe can receive what you offer and respond in its own time and in its own way. And watch what happens. When you stop forcing and start flowing. When you stop proving and start being. When you stop chasing and start becoming. Watch what arrives. Watch what opens. Watch what manifests. Quietly and inevitably in the life of a person who has finally, fully, deeply learned to relax. That is our video for today. And before I let you go, I want to take a moment to say something from the heart. If this video found you at a moment when you needed it, if something here gave you a breath of relief or a spark of recognition, please do not keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who is struggling, someone who is burning themselves out chasing results, someone who needs to hear, from a tradition 2,000 years old and more relevant today than ever, that it is okay to breathe. It is not only okay, it is necessary. It is wise. It is the most productive thing they can do. And please, if you have not already, subscribe to Stoic Zeno right now. Every week we go deep into the ancient wisdom of the Stoics and bring it to life for the modern world. This is not philosophy as an academic exercise. This is philosophy as a tool for living. Every video is built to give you something real, something actionable, something that can change the quality of your life today, not in some imagined future. Like this video if it served you. Leave a comment below and tell me what you are working on manifesting right now. What is the thing you want to relax into rather than strain toward? I read every comment. I will reply. This channel is a community, and your voice is part of it. And one more thing. The Stoics believed that philosophy was not something you consumed. It was something you practiced. So, whatever you took from this video today, I want to challenge you to take one thing, just one, and apply it tonight. Before you sleep, sit quietly for 5 minutes. Review your day without judgment. Identify one place where you gripped too tightly and release it. Let it go. Breathe. And see how tomorrow feels when you enter it a little lighter. You are stronger than you know, more capable than you believe, and the life you want is closer than you think. It is not waiting for you on the other side of more effort or more achievement. It is waiting for you on the other side of a single breath, a genuine, full, surrendered breath. Take it now. I will see you in the next one. This is Stoic Zeno. Stay grounded. Stay free.